My childhood gave me my strength because I believe that I was left behind for a purpose to serve. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. We're all pink on the inside and we all bleed red, right?
Hey, my friends, listen, welcome to another episode of the IMPACTIVIST Show, where ideas and inspiration collide. I am super pumped. I'm stoked to introduce to you my friend this morning, our local police chief, Chief Jessica Robledo. She has come into Pflugerville. She's transformed this town, this city, into a place where the community is engaged, to where there's unity, to where people in my shoes, in my neighborhood, people that I talk to around town, are in a position that they run to the badge and not from it. She is a woman who leads with a servant heart, and I can tell you some stories that we'll probably get into. But let me just tell you this right off the top. When she came to Pflugerville, she was the first female Hispanic police chief that was sworn in here. In Pflugerville, we have a real neat opportunity. Our police chief and our city manager are both the first females in those positions. And before she came to Pflugerville, she actually served APD, was assistant chief there. But before that, she was also the first, make sure I get this right, Chief, make sure that she was the first female street narcotics officer for APD as well, which would scare me to death. But I know this woman well enough. She was not afraid. Her motto, let me just tell you, is to lead, follow, or get out of the way, and to lead with a servant's heart. It's one of the things I love. I appreciate so much about her. So, Chief, man, thanks for taking just a few minutes this morning to meet with us and to be here and kind of share your vision with people around the world. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tom. And I was the jump out girl. That's what they would call me back in the day.
That's nice. Nice. Well, listen, this is such a crazy time in the world. I am really excited to get people in our tribe to see your heart, to hear your heart, to understand your leadership, your servant leadership, which is a huge thing. I saw a video or a speech or something when you first came to Pflugerville, where you talked about having a tough childhood. And I'm curious a little bit how that maybe impacted you into who you are and how you lead today.
My childhood gave me my strength. Yes, I share my story, and I'm trying to teach my staff to share their story. I call it peeling your onion back and embracing your broken. I call it my broken because my father was murdered when I was 8 years old. A year after that, my mother died. I had no brothers or sisters. So I was mad at the world. So I know and I understand how our youth, when they're dealt a bad card in life, it's easier to turn left, to get mad at the world, to get mad at God, to lose faith in all mankind. But for some reason, I was raised by my mother's parents, my grandparents, and they did a phenomenal job with me, with a child that had a lot of broken, that didn't understand. And I grew up in a very small town in West Texas, Sonora, Texas. And I came from very humble beginnings. So I don't ever take anything for granted. I don't ever forget where I come from, because the person that I might be talking to or having a cup of coffee or listening to on the other side of the phone may have broken too. So I try to remember that. I'm a fighter for what's right. I'm a fighter for justice. I will stand up for what's right, even if I'm the only one standing in the room and it's full of smoke. I will do the right thing because I believe that I was left behind for a purpose to serve. I believe that everything that I do in life honors those that I lost. So I try to teach that. I try to talk about that, because most people won't talk about the elephant in the room. Most people are ashamed of where they came from. Most people are ashamed to talk about their failure. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. We're all pink on the inside and we all bleed red, right?
That's right, 100%. That's every time I hear you speak, whether it's at a cadet graduation or at a community service or whatever it is, you are so encouraging. You're encouraging to the public, to me personally. I know you've got to be encouraging to the staff. And one of the things that you just said that I love is you said that you felt like maybe you were left behind for a purpose. Is that something that pushed you into public service, into law enforcement? Is that what that is?
When I say I was left behind, I didn't recognize what my driven purpose in life was until I was an adult. Because I have a saying, and I tell staff here all the time, you don't know what you don't know till you know it. And it's going to slap you in the face. And then it's your decision whether you're going to take that baton and run with it, or if you're going to lay that baton down.
That's great. One of the things that I have appreciated about your role in our city, Pflugerville is one of the most diverse cities in the country. There are 40 or 50 languages spoke, I guess, in Pflugerville. I didn't grow up here, so I grew up in Southeast Texas, and didn't realize how different it was until we moved to Pflugerville. And that's one of the reasons we came here, was because it is so diverse. My children are growing up with biracial family next to us, a Asian family across the street from us, a Korean family across the street from us, an African American family diagonally across the other street, the other house. And when our kids all come out to play together, it looks like Pflugerville, right? It looks like America. It is, and that's not unusual for them. That's Saturday. That's not a special occasion. I imagine that leading and serving in a city like Pflugerville brings special challenges, but also figure that it also brings special opportunities. And I'm curious, what do those challenges look like? What do those opportunities look like?
Before I answer that, I want to go back and tell you a little bit about your previous question. You asked me what I was going to do when I grew up. I was going to be a teacher. I was going to be a coach. And the reason I was going to be a coach was because sports was my outlet for my pain, for the heavy that I was carrying of what I didn't understood that happened to me in my childhood. I didn't realize that I was going to go into law enforcement until my fourth year in college. I was the first in my family to go to college. I didn't have two nickels to rub together, but it didn't matter. I was going to do it. I was very headstrong. Bless my grandparents' hearts. They had to deal with me. But for some reason, there was something in me, and there was something spiritual in me that guided me. And I always felt like it was my parents. I didn't have them here physically, but I felt like they were my angels, my guardian angels. And by believing that, I think it gave me a greater faith. So, I've got a long story about failure. When I first tried to go into law enforcement back in West Texas, I faced discrimination. I faced failure. But that might be for another day, for another podcast, another recording. And it's fine if you want to, but I want to be able to answer your questions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would love if you have time to talk about that a little bit. I noticed a couple of things. We follow each other on social media and that kind of thing, which I love. One of the things that you posted this last few weeks, and I'm going to butcher it, so feel free to straighten me up. but it was the idea that your value, your worth is not determined by someone else's lack of ability to notice your value. That people don't, you're not a failure when you fall, that winners always get up, right?
Yes.
And I think that sounds like that's your heart, is that you always get up.
Yes. And you know why I say that? Winners. So what I posted was, winners are not people who never fail, but people who never quit. So my message was, and it's very important, I use my Chiefs page on Facebook to motivate others, myself, and I do it so you can learn about my heart, who I am. And my post said, in our profession, we may stumble, trip, and fall. We learn, we pivot, and we push towards excellence. And it's very important that the community understands that, because we're not always going to get it right. We're going to make mistakes as a profession. We in law enforcement took an oath to serve, protect, and to be the voice for justice. We are the voice for those who don't have a voice, who can't find a voice. And then I'm telling the Blue family in law enforcement, don't you dare quit, Blue. Don't you dare quit. Don't forget your oath. That's what that post is about.
I love that so much. There's a saying that we use, a couple of things. One is that people don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? And when you lead with that intent, with that servant's heart, I think people judge us less by our actions and more by our intent. If you and I have a conversation, and whether we agree or disagree or come to the same conclusion, or you say, Tom, you're just wrong, if I know your heart is to better me, then I'm going to receive that in a different way, right? We say in our tribe, we talk about leadership being service. We say that leadership is not about being in charge, it's about caring for those in your charge. And I'll tell you a story. The first time I came to the PD, I think we were working on a Veterans Day project. Ted Cruz was coming, and it was this big celebration, big program. I walked into that conference room next to your office, and there's a mural. There's a huge, I don't know, 6, 8, 10-foot mural on the wall that says "Lead with a Servant's Heart." And I don't admit this a lot. You've seen me cry, but I got a little emotional. I felt like a little Gilmore Girl, I think, for a second, because that's so important for relationship in our community, right? To know that you're leading from a servant's heart. And I think you embody that. I think that's something that we all respect you for. So for people who are watching, because we have people around the world who are engaged in this tribe, people who say, I want to have an impact, I want to make a change, I want to be a leader in my community or in my job. Do you have what I call Robledo's rules of engagement? Do you have something that you would encourage people who are listening and watching?
Yes. So for me, for you, if you want to serve and you want to serve the right way, don't forget about who you're serving and why you're doing it. Do it for the greater good. It's not always going to be popular. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. You know, you have to be accessible to the community. I give my cell phone number out. I pick up the phone and call people when they've had a bad experience with one of our staff. Why is that important? Because that's important because I want to treat them the way I would want to be treated. And then what I get on the other line is, oh my God, you are who? And I'm like, I work for you. I'm your chief. I work for you. Did we fall short? Did we make you feel a certain way? How can we do better? When you approach people in that manner and you put that olive branch out there, They see you as a human being, and they don't judge you by the polyester that you wear or the bling that's on your collar or the title that comes with it, but you show people your servant heart, and they will appreciate that more, even if you do make a mistake. You know, I talk about leadership all the time with staff, and I model it, and I tell them, I'm not going to ask you to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. I've brought some traditions here that I have blown staff's mind, the leadership, the command staff team, and they're like, oh my God, do you sleep? Do you ever stop? And I said, guys, I was retired. I was fat, dumb, and happy. I was retired. And I got a phone call, and that was a knock on the door. But it came from up above. And I knew that my blue book value was still good and that my passion was on fire for serving others. And that's why I came back with full force.
I love it. I love that. I don't know you without passion, so I don't know what that would be like. Hey, before I have a final couple of questions, you guys need to know, you and your staff, you know that I know many of your staff. I know many of the officers, the detectives, corporals, the Blue Guardian program that you brought to Pflugerville that has served not just backpack friends, but lots of children in the area. Those things are, I'm grateful for those things that you do. So before I ask my last question, if people wanted to follow you, to find you on Facebook, social media, that kind of thing, where can they connect with you?
I would love it if people would follow me and connect, because I love bridging gaps. And before I answer your question, I want to tell folks this is a lesson that I teach here, is that I might walk into a room full of strangers, but I'm going to leave with a room full of friends. And when you shake someone's hand, you shake it with determination, with an open heart, and a smile on your face, and you thank them for coming to see you in your home and your PD. And that's what's going to make people feel welcome and want to come and ask for help when they need it. So that's very important. That's a very important life lesson. So, okay, do you have a pen and paper? I have a Chiefs page on Facebook, and it's at PF Chief Robledo. And then my Twitter is at PF Chief Robledo. And then I have a personal Instagram, and it's at PF Chief Jeff. So people are like, when do you have time to do that? And I said, oh, this is a perfect opportunity because I'm planting a seed. I want them to hear my words, know my heart. So that's important. If you're gonna have a handle, a social media handle, don't have somebody else run it, because that's like almost like an imposter in my book, right?
Yeah.
So people are gonna get to know me, the crazy me, the fun me, the real me.
Right. Well, and you said it, that you're planting seed, right? Like when we are talking about community service and public service and leadership, we're playing the long game, right? This is not a short game. This is planting seeds. And one of the things that I appreciate about you is we have some common ground with veterans and children, at-risk children, and you're building those bridges so that those adults grow up in the kind of community that we want them to be, right? We want them to be at that place as an adult, that they have the experiences that form them, that just make our community better in every way. So it's planting those seeds, it's watering it, it's nurturing it, it's feeding it. So with all of that, if you could have one tweet, one billboard, one Facebook post that everyone in the world would see, what would your message be to the world?
My billboard to the world would be, the human race is not about color. It's about love.
Right.
Love wins. #love wins.
Chief, thank you so much. I know you are a busy person. Thanks for taking just a few minutes and spending some time with us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Impactivists, before you go, listen, Chief Robledo and I talked about a lot of things today, and we would love to know what's one thing that resonated? What's one takeaway that you can pull from this time together? I don't know if it's maybe something that has to do with leadership or community service or leading with a servant's heart or overcoming struggle. Whatever that is, please put that in the comments below. We would love for you to be part of the conversation that continues. If you haven't hit the subscribe and the notification buttons to this, please do that as well. And if you're not a part of our Facebook group, Impactivist Facebook group, hop over there and join that group. It's free, nobody's selling anything. We just want to do what we can do to work together to make the world the best that it can be. We would love for you to be a part of that. Join us. We will see you over there, and we'll see you soon.
Oh my gosh, that was good.